Welcome, food and fitness lovers, to Tina's Ageless Kitchen. I'm Chef Tina Martini. You might know me as the Medicine Chef. Welcome, food and fitness lovers, to Tina's Ageless Kitchen. I'm Chef Tina Martini. You might know me as the Medicine Chef. Well, today in the Ageless Kitchen, it's weight loss for food lovers. Now, you may be thinking to yourself, how can a size 12 chef be talking to me about weight loss? I really want us to get over this fat thing. It's not about your weight so much as it is your activity level. So please, let's focus on wellness instead of appearance. Our society is so based on how we appear, and that really is no indicator of our true level of health and fitness. So I go to the gym almost every day, and I hope to see you there as well. Today, we're going to do fried chicken. Oh, yeah, fried chicken on your weight loss program. Or shall we say fat loss and wellness program. So the Cajun fried chicken is going to be really nice done in the oven. You get that same crispiness as you do with regular fried chicken. So what I've done, and I learned this trick from a southern friend of mine, is soak the chicken overnight in ice cold low fat buttermilk. Now, I'm sure you know that buttermilk is high in calcium like all dairy is, but what you may not know is buttermilk is very high in digestive enzymes and probiotics. It's very similar in a yogurt type way with the good probiotics that strengthen our digestive tract and also work to strengthen our immune system. So the chicken has been soaking in the ice cold buttermilk and Tabasco just to give that little boost of flavor. Now, chefs usually like meat on the bone. It does add more flavor and moisture. It does take a little longer to cook, but you're going to get a much better result. Now, a lot of people won't eat dark meat because they feel that it's higher in fat, which is true. But remember this, in comparison to dark meat and light meat, you've only got 7% more fat. But guess what, chefs? You've got 27% more iron. Now, iron really helps move oxygen out in our body. When red blood cells hang out in the trunk of our body, we're not efficient in moving that oxygen and burning body fat. You may know it as being aerobic. So we want our red blood cells to flow out nicely and help us move that energy around the body. Okay, so we've got the buttermilk, we've got Tabasco. You could do a little cayenne or chili powder in here, whatever you like. I'm going to season everything up really well. So just use a little bit of your sea salt or your kosher salt, and I'm going to give a little black pepper for some heat. Now make sure that you're seasoning all levels. And what I've done here is made my own Cajun blend. And remember, we'll make those recipes available for you to use at home. I've made my own Cajun dry rub and just incorporated it into some gluten-free breadcrumbs. Also, I've got the Cajun spice in the whole grain flour. So we've got lignans, we've got no gluten to really help keep our bellies flatter, and then we've got the whole egg here for a really nice crunch and a little protection to seal in that moisture. I've got a sheet pan here with a rack on top, and that's going to lift the chicken up and have that hot air circulating all around evenly so that we don't have the chicken laying in any of its own fat and getting soggy on the bottom. When you lift food off of the rack, the heat can circulate just like a convection oven would, and it crisps that chicken all the way around. Now remember, all meat has omega-3 fatty acid in it, as well as saturated fat. And did you know your receptors are actually made to absorb saturated fat? Now we're talking about medium chain fat, not long chain, and meat, of course, has the long chain fat. So we want to keep that to a minimum. All right, so I'm just going to start with my buttermilk coming off of the chicken. I'm going to dip it in the seasoned flour and just coat it really well and shake off the excess. If we build up too much on the meat, it's going to burn and leave a bitter flavor. So let's just shake that off real well into the egg wash with our lutein, our zeaxanthin, and our vitamin A. And then shake that off as well and into the breadcrumbs. So again, I'm leaving one hand clean, and that will keep us safe and keep us a little less messy. Just roll that right around. Oh boy, that already looks great, doesn't it? And I have 4 pieces already done for you here, chefs. And I'm just going to park this right on our rack. Let's go ahead and put our other pieces up there that we've already done. And again, meat on the bone is going to have the optimal flavor. All right, let's do one more piece. And when we come back, we're going to make a coconut bacon that's going to go on top of a parsnip puree. And to finish it off, a smoked tomato beurre blanc. All right, chefs, we're back in the Ageless Kitchen, and today it's weight loss for food lovers. I know that doesn't make a whole lot of sense, but we've made a commitment now to one another to really think about wellness as opposed to appearance, and I know that's hard to do in our society. All right, the next thing up is a parsnip puree. What is a parsnip? Well, it's really a root vegetable that looks similar to a carrot, but it's white. Now, I have some raw here before we blanch them, and the way that you do white vegetables, let's say cauliflower, the parsnip, a turnip, things that you might want to stay a little more bright and not oxidize, make sure you put a little white vinegar in the water before you boil it. And that's going to keep it really nice and white and beautiful for presentation. Now, I've got some cooked parsnips here already just to kind of speed things along. Let's go ahead and put some of our yellow onion in and just get a little flavor base. Now, again, we're just going to sweat it, chefs, and make sure that we're not, putting too much color or really any color at all. There's a way to caramelize onions that bring out the sweetness, but when we rush it or we put too much color on, it really does taste bitter. Now, the onions, of course, really contain a high amount of quercetin. Quercetin mends damaged tissue and eases trauma in the body, but it's also a very powerful anti-clotter. So if we've got some problems with blood clotting or clots that we may have had with a medical condition, the onion family and garlic family, allium compounds, would be a really great choice to keep that clotting down to a minimum. All right, so just sweat those. I am going to add just a little bit of salt and pepper to the onions, and you might say, wow, what are you doing that for? But the reason is because, again, we're building layer upon layer. We're bringing out all of the great sweetness and savoriness of the onion at the same time. Let me go over what I have here with you so that you can see how the parsnip puree is going to do. Now, if you wanted to add a little bit of potato to this, let's say your family's not used to the taste of parsnips, then just add a little bit of regular russet potato or whatever, a Yukon Gold would be great, in your boiling water or your steamer basket. And that way you're going to sneak in the parsnip. Now, one of the great things about parsnips, turnips, rutabagas is, again, they grow in the ground, so they're high in something called abscisic acid. All right, so the great thing about the parsnip is that it helps to clean out the bile ducts, particularly the pancreatic bile duct. So it's showing promise with treatment and prevention of pancreatic cancer. All right, so I'm going to open up the blender and just put the cooked parsnip in. So let's just go ahead and scrape that in. And again, we've already steamed them or blanched them. Let's get rid of that. And I am going to put just a little bit of pepper in here. Now, I'm not going to add any more salt right now. Let's just quickly give our onions a little stir around. All you need to do is soften this just for a couple minutes. While we're doing that, let's talk about our vegan chicken base. Now, this is the chickenless vegan base, and you see me use it a lot. Reconstitute it in hot water, and that way we're not going to have to use so much of the heavy cream that chefs normally use when they're creating a velvety smooth puree, which is where we're taking our parsnips. Now, heavy cream, really great here. And it does help to give a really nice smooth texture. The good thing about heavy cream is it's very high in alpha lipoic acid. Now, ALA, one of the most powerful liver cleansers we know, and that's why we're including it in our Weight Loss for Food Lovers show today. Now, the alpha lipoic acid, again, strengthens the liver's ability to burn body fat, and that really is the liver's job. It does clean out toxins, but it is responsible for helping us maximize our fat burn. All right, I'm going to go ahead and take the heat off here. We've softened these just enough. And I'm going to pop them right in with our parsnips. All right, beautiful. Oh boy, the aroma is just great. Let's move this to the side, and we're going to add a little bit of butter in as well. Now, just a little bit of real butter is going to go a long way. Now, let's just blend this up. We've got a little bit of steam coming off with our onions, so I'm going to open that vent up so that we don't have any accidents. And let's turn that on low, and then we can kick it up a little bit. Now, this works in your food processor as well, chefs. Let's go ahead and scrape that down and get that moving. All right, perfect. All right, that's looking almost perfect. Now you could leave as much texture as you'd like, but I'm going to take it just a little more smooth. So let's add just a little bit more of our chickenless and just a tiny bit more of our heavy cream, also known as alpha lipoic acid, right, chefs? Okay, and we're going to vent this again, get it started, and then let's really let her rip. Now remember not to overwork because it can turn to glue, and nobody wants to eat glue. Just one more final pulse. And we can give that another scrape down and into our bowl for service. Now your family's really going to enjoy this, and it's a great way to get some extra phytonutrients. Oh boy, that's looking just as smooth as velvet. And we're just going to hold that warm. When we come back, we're going to build our own smoker in the kitchen and smoke some tomatoes. All right, and we're back. Now the chicken is working in the oven and it's getting nice and crispy on that rack. Now we've got a whole big project going on right now, chef. So let me tell you what we're doing. First of all, we're going to make a smoked tomato beurre blanc. So we're going to smoke our own tomatoes. Now if you wanted to cheat this a little bit, you could use some canned tomatoes and some liquid smoke, but believe me, you're not going to get the same result. Now, please hear me on this. You need to be very safe making your own smoker in the kitchen. Open a window, make sure the house is well ventilated, and make sure that if you have any fear of fire at all, you don't try this at home. It's one of those kind of stunts. So I'm sure you'll be fine, but just be safe. All right, so for our smoked tomato beurre blanc, I'm melting some shallots, and we're going to go ahead and get our steamer going and get back to our sauce in just a moment. Now I've got a piece of foil down in a heavy stainless steel stock pot. I really like to use the pecan wood. All fruit woods add a beautiful sweet finish to your smoked goods. I'm just going to put the chips down in the bottom and spread them out on top of the sheet of foil. All right, so I've placed another piece of foil down just to keep us nice and safe. I'm going to put the steamer basket in. Whatever you have works. We need some holes though to circulate that smoke. All right, let's use our little shark tool and get our tomatoes all ready, and that just cleans them out beautifully. Great. We'll do 3 for our sauce. I think that will be perfect. Let's put those in. Now I'm going to get back to our melted shallots real quick because we need to add our sherry vinegar. All right, so we're going to put that in and swirl the pan around, and that's going to slow those shallots down beautifully. All right, so we're all set here. Now we're going to add a lid to it just to kind of really make sure that smoke stays in. We're going to put the burner on high and then start the smoking process. Now, if too much smoke is escaping from around the lid, just to keep you safe again, and make sure that window's open, you can seal it with some foil all the way around, and that's going to help keep everything safe and not smoke you out. All right, so we've got our steamer all built, and we're going to just put it on the fire on high. So let me just move it up here, and we'll have that for our finished product. So remember now, you're going to really get those chips going good, and so we do need the burner on high. I'm going to go ahead and get that started, and that's going to work on its own for just a moment. Do keep an eye on it, but we need to get back to our sauce base. So I've slowly melted the shallots in a little bit of the grapeseed oil, and then I added the sherry vinegar, and that's going to add a beautiful layer of flavor. All right, I'm going to just move these out of the way, and we'll add our heavy cream. Now, the beurre blanc is a classic French sauce, and what that means is that we're going to reduce the cream, and that's going to add a really creamy consistency, and we're going to cut in some cold butter at the end. All right, so we're going to start this reducing. I'm going to get a little more heat under here, but be careful not to burn the cream. Now, here's a tip, chefs, to make your life easier without boiling your cream over on the stove. And I'm sure we've all boiled over dairy on the stove and it's a mess. So what we want to do is use a vessel that's 4 times the volume of the amount of dairy product that we're using. That gives the cream enough room to expand without boiling over. So remember, your handy hint for our time today is that you're going to use a vessel that's 4 times the volume of the amount of cream or dairy that you're using. All right, let's give this a little whisk. Oh boy, is that smelling great. All right, so the cream, a great source of alpha lipoic acid, and our focus today is really maximizing that fat burning machine, the liver. Alpha lipoic acid does that for us. Now we're going to reduce that, and what that means is that we're going to use heat and time to reduce the water content in the liquid. Let's go ahead and add a little salt and pepper to that, and that's going to bring up even more delicious flavor. We've got a little bit of lemon juice over here, and then we're going to add that at the very end to finish the sauce. I'm going to get the butter out of the freezer, and that way when our sauce is properly reduced, we're going to just cut in the cold butter a little bit at a time, and that's going to help thicken the sauce and bring all the flavors together. Let's check on our smoker and see how we're doing. We look like we're getting going here and making some progress. Now remember, when the tomato is raw, it has 27% lycopene, but when we cook it, we increase that lycopene to 300%. Lycopene gives us beautiful skin, slows the aging process, but most important with the lycopene is that it protects the heart health in both men and women, and it reduces sun damage by as much as 40%. So lycopene, one of our favorite phytonutrients. All right, now we need to get the butter, and it needs to be ice cold. So what I've done is just cut it into pieces so that it'll go in slowly and incorporate. To help us thicken the cream, the colder the butter, the better. So I've cut it up and placed it in the freezer. Let me just grab it real quick here. And that's going to be perfect because it's ice cold, and it really is going to help thicken that sauce. It's basically a chemical reaction, chefs, with the ice cold butter going into the hot cream. Not only is it going to help us thicken the sauce, it's going to add that beautiful butter flavor that no one can resist, as well as adding a beautiful finished gloss to the sauce. All right, so we've got that done. Let's go ahead and cut some ice cold butter in. Now remember, chefs, you're just going to go 1 tablespoon or so at a time, and that way we're working it in. I'm going to go ahead and kill the heat on this because we don't want to overwork the sauce or overheat the butter. It will break. And I'm sure we've all experienced that before, where we think we have a nice smooth sauce, we heat it up just a little bit too much, and then it takes on a curdled, kind of separated look, and that means your sauce is broken. We don't want that. So just a tablespoon or so at a time, even a teaspoon if you want to work slowly. And you've noticed that I turned the heat off. All right, so let's go ahead and cut the rest of our butter in. And the sauce is really thickening beautifully now, really gorgeous. And just keep working that. The aroma of the shallots and the vinegar together. And remember, chefs, if you don't have sherry vinegar, you can easily use the apple cider vinegar. And we know the health benefits of that apple cider vinegar. Helps us lower our blood pressure, and it even helps with acid reflux. Now, you might say, how does vinegar help with acid reflux? That's too much acid. But sometimes a little hair of the dog, as it were, helps calm that acid down. And apple cider vinegar is proving to be a really wonderful tool to strengthen our digestive tract and keep that acid down. When we come back, we're going to peel our smoked tomatoes and make some vegan bacon. Welcome back, chefs, to the smoky kitchen. Now, these tomatoes are beautifully smoked. The only thing we have to do is just slide the skin off. Now, be careful. If you have gloves, I would wear gloves, but you can see how it almost pulls off completely whole. So we're just going to throw that in the trash because that won't be pleasant on the palate. Now, do it with tongs or do it with gloves again because this is really hot. So we're just going to take all that off. Now here's our base that we made earlier, and we're just going to pour that right into our blender. Oh, nice and thick and gorgeous. Okay, let's scrape that last little bit out here. Perfect. And we're going to add our tomatoes. Now don't just plop them in because everything's hot, so let's use our tongs and just set them in. Now you want that juice of the tomato to stay in, so try to hold it up. And if you've got little bits of skin, just pull it off. But we can also strain it at the end. All right, perfect. Let's get that out of the way. Now we're going to blend this, and it's warm. So remember what we do is we vent the top. Actually, I'm just going to use a towel. That's going to be much easier for this particular recipe. All right, so use your towel to keep that liquid down where it belongs. Turn this on low, and let's get it started. Let some steam come out of the top, chefs. And then we're just going to blend that up, and it's going to be nice and smooth. We can push it through a strainer just to take the bits out. I'm going to finish it with some fresh lemon juice. We'll be back to make our vegan bacon. All right, adventurous chefs, and it certainly has been an adventure today in the Ageless kitchen, making our smoker and doing our tomatoes. Now something really special. We're going to make coconut bacon, and we know that coconut is loaded with all kinds of phytonutrients. I'm going to use a little bit of liquid smoke. We did the real thing with our tomatoes, but this is in the bottle, and it is a vegan product. You only need a little bit. It goes a long way. Little maple syrup, and yes, please do use the real deal. A little bit of tamari, which the gluten-free people will love because it's a wheat-free soy sauce. I've got a little bit of water just to kind of move it around, and all we're going to do is just mix that together and add our coconut flakes. Now, just let the coconut flakes absorb the glaze, if you will, the bacon flavor. We're just going to toss all that together. Use your hands. It actually works better for this. I'm just going to keep working this around. I've got a rack set up. I've got the oven low because this goes really fast. So we're just going to spread all this out on the sheet. Let it absorb just a little bit more of that flavor. And then just spread it as thin as you can. We want it to kind of dry in the oven as opposed to baking. All right, I'm just going to spread that out. We can put the last little bit over our chips. This is going to go in the oven, and when we come back, we're going to put all of our fabulous food together on the plate. I'll see you in just a moment. Well, it's been quite an adventurous day in the Ageless kitchen today, building our own smoker, oven fried chicken that's just like the real deal, and our velvety, beautiful parsnip puree. We're getting ready to nappe or just drape a little bit of that beautiful smoked tomato beurre blanc that we made with our smoker. Now remember that the cooked tomatoes are 300% lycopene, and the cream in the beurre blanc sauce helps us to absorb that lycopene. It's a fat-soluble phytonutrient. So remember, chefs, that a little bit of fat really goes a long way. Now, weight loss for food lovers, I think you'd agree that anyone would like to receive this plate. But you may be asking yourself, why in the world is she plating her dinner on such a small salad plate? Well, that's the very reason, chefs. The secret, of course, is calories in and exercise or energy out. Now, if we control our portions, we can enjoy all the foods we love, get enough movement. I'm going to nappe the sauce now. That's it for this week in the Ageless kitchen. Look at how creamy and delicious that looks. And we're all set. I'm Chef Tina Martini. Here's to your health.